Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. The webinar today is designed as part one of the training for the judging phase of the new ADDY software. Also, I want to thank you all for your patience as we work on this program with our software partners, Omni Contest, to develop a software system that will work for every level of the ADDY competition, clubs, the districts, and the nationals. I'm George Riddell. I'm the chairman of the National ADDY Committee. And today you're going to learn about the basics of how to set up your competition in preparation for the ADDY Awards judging phase. Today's webinar will be recorded and archived as the previous webinars have been. And after we're done, we'll send out an email to all ADDY chairs, district ADDY chairs, et cetera, to let you know where you can find the recording so that you can go back to it and use it as a reference, or so that you can send the information to others on your committee who might have missed today's live webinar. As with other aspects of the new software, which we all refer to as version OC4, the judging aspects are complex. The complexity involves some new ways of doing things. We all need to keep an open mind to these changes and recognize that they're intended to provide enhancements and improvement to the way we do things. We've an hour scheduled for this webinar. We expect Jeffrey's instructional session to last 30 to 40 minutes, and we're reserving an additional 15 minutes or so to take your questions about the judging phase. We realize some of you may have some questions about other software matters. We may not have time for that today, but as always, you can email your questions to addyinfo@aaf.org about any aspect of the software or the ADDY process. And Jeffrey or I will address your questions personally. So please make use of that email address, and we will respond. So with that, let's get started. During the webinar, if you have questions, you can submit the questions via the question box on your screen. Just type the question in, and at the end of Jeffrey's session, we'll take the questions as we have time available and address those questions. Jeffrey will address the questions. So without anything further, here's Jeffrey DeLong, the Vice Chair of the National ADDY Committee, and the ADDY software guru, who many of you know, to take us through part one of the judging software. Jeffrey?
Good day, everyone. Hope everything's going well. We're going to do another whirlwind walk through the setup of your judging. And without further ado, go ahead and go in there. Remember, the URL to the administration is very simple. It's addyawards.com/admin. It should take you to this long and drawn out URL, and then you will want to log in with your admin account. So once we're in, remember that we need to go and we need to configure, go to competitions, and we need to pin the current competition. In my case, I only have one, so it's going to be automatically pinned. In most of y'all's cases, you will have 2011, 2012, and also the 2012, 2013 competition. Make sure you pin 2012, 2013. And then we're going to jump straight down to judging. And here it's kind of overwhelming, but we're going to try to make this very simple and go with a few steps. We have 11 to note right now, and that's as short as we could make it. So right now, the first thing we want to do is look at our judges. And we're going to create judges just like we create any other contact. I have one in here already, and I'll go ahead and click Edit. But as you know, if we want to add a judge, we go up here to the Add New icon. But I'm going to go ahead and edit the one I've already got in here. And it's very simple. Looks just like any other form. We have our names. And yet again, we have another email address that we're going to need. Now, if you want to go ahead and put kind of a test one in there, that's totally acceptable, because I know not everybody like me has multiple email accounts that they can just use on a whim. So feel free to, if you need to set up a test judge, this is one way to do it. If you already know the names of your judges, feel free to go ahead and put them in place with all their pertinent info, and you can go from there. The other checkbox to note is you need to make sure that this bottom one is approved, is selected. Both of these need to be approved, but make sure those are selective, and then you hit Save and Close to get out of it. So that's step one. And then the other thing we need to move forward with is setting up our judging dates. I do apologize for the delay. As some of you know, we have been having some slight delays with the software. Those are being remedied. All right, the next step in the process is going to the judge rounds. Now, like with pinning the competition, we have to pin our judge round. Everybody should have a default judging round of 2012-2013 judging. If that does not display in your software, you need to let us know right away, and we will make sure it gets put in there for you. We have tried to make this the default thing for every single competition out there. All right, so we will need to pin this round. So that's the one we are actively working on. Now, notice there's a few things that we can already see in this place. We know that we have 7 entries right now that are listed as incomplete. We know that we have 42 that have been submitted for judging. And then there's a whole bunch of other information. We have scores needed, scores complete, how much rewarding. So this is a nice place to come and look as the judging progresses. So right now, I'm going to look and I'm going to edit this. And there are 2 ways to get to the dates. So I can come to the judge rounds, and edit this line, and I can set my dates here. I've put a very wide range here because we've been training with this. So right now you would just put your weekend of judging on this. And you don't have to put from August to February like I have it here. You can put just a few days if you would like that you will actually be judging. So once I have that, I can save that. Now the other place I can find this is of course under dates and fees. So if I click dates and fees and dates, I have the same dates sitting right here, and I can add and edit those as needed. So let's go back to judging, and we'll move on to step 3. As with all of our competitions, you have the choice to do scoring or consensus. The system is built on the scoring way of doing judging. So we're going to click into score criteria, and again, this should also be sitting here as default for you. If it is not, you need to let us know. But right now we have a minimum score of 1 and a maximum score of 100. I know some of you out there like to put that minimum score at 50, so feel free to change that. That is really the only thing you need to change here is the minimum score and the maximum score, however you want to do this. I recommend leaving it at a 100-point scale. It's a lot easier to score and scale your entries later after judging is complete. So now we have created some judges. We've updated the judging dates to make sure those are proper. We've confirmed the score criteria. We need to get all the entries into a setup where they're able to be judged. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our entries to see what's going on. Now remember, under judging rounds, we had a nice little list here saying, okay, I've got 7 incomplete and I've got 42 submitted. Another place to look at that is also under judging where it says entries, judging status, and scores. If I look into this, I can see all my entries. Now, again, I've got a total records of 49 right here. I'm going to go ahead and open up this so I can just see everything. And I have a nice list here that says submitted, 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 oh, incomplete, submitted, 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 oh, incomplete. So there are a few things I can do. First of all, I want to look at these incomplete to see what's going on with them. The easiest way to do that is go under Manage and Entries, and that same list will be sitting here. Now, this is a pretty big, unwieldy list, and you can see the judging status over here on the right, also the same thing. Now, I don't necessarily want to have to guess which ones because my screen's just not that big. I'm going to go ahead and search all my incomplete. So up in this gray box here, it's real nice. You can get real detailed on what you want to see. I'm going to select judging status as incomplete, and I'm going to hit search. And that's going to provide me with my 7 entries here that are quote-unquote incomplete. So I need to know why. Why are those incomplete? Well, in some cases, it's probably because they didn't upload a video asset, or maybe they just didn't submit them to be complete. Hopefully you won't have this many, but what you'll want to do is kind of edit the entry and look around to see what was incomplete about it. Maybe make a phone call. All the information is right there, so you should be able to call them quickly. I'm going to check my uploads because remember, everything's going online, so I want to make sure that they've uploaded video files or audio files or whatever we've needed there. And then we also want to see, okay, did they finalize the entry? Well, this is another place where they're going to tell us all the pieces that haven't been met. So maybe they just stopped and didn't delete the entry. Maybe they just forgot to upload. Maybe they just didn't have all this information. Whatever it is, we need to find out. Or if you don't want to find out, you don't have to. But this is the quickest and easiest way to find out what they need to do to finalize their entries. Once you've got that resolved, you can go back in to judging. We're going to go check our statuses again. Now, if I wanted to, I could select all these that are incomplete and just force them into submitted. But I know that these entries that are not correct, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just select the ones that I want submitted into my competition to go judging. So the easiest way to do just the submitted pieces to make accepted into judging is to click on Judging. In the Judge Rounds, I've got my handy little list right here. I'm going to click on that. It's going to pull up all my submitted. And so I need to first accept these into judging. So I'm going to check this little box here so it checks all my entries. Now if you have more than 200 entries, we're going to get into a paging situation. So I'll come back to that in a second. So my action is I want to update the judging status. Then it's going to provide me with another menu here, and I'm going to move it all to accepted. So now all my entries have been accepted into judging, and that's the first part of that. Now, the next thing I need to do is configure what are called judge entry groups. And this is a little tricky. The default list should be sitting in here for you. There is a judge entry group for each category within the competition. Now, some of you have probably added a local category, a local only category. You might have added a budget breakdown to your TV, maybe something different in Trade Magazine, whatever it is, you might have added something locally. Those aren't going to be in here. So what I'm going to do is show you exactly how to clear this list and put all of your categories in there. And it's as simple as clicking this top box on the left to select that. Notice we have 252, so I'm going to have to go into the paging, which I was going to show you. I need to go to Action and make inactive. And then my next set are there. I do it again and mark inactive. And now all the judge entry groups that were originally created for me are now gone. And so now don't freak out. We're going to move on and create them again, and it's going to do it for us. So I'm going to go Add New. And then there's this funky little button up at the top that's called Create Mass JEG. So I'm going to click on that. And all we have to do here is select all categories. And this is very important that the mass judge entry group on all categories. So it's going to go through and look at every single category we have in our system and create our judging groups. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save and Close. And it has now pushed us back, and we have a complete list with all my local only categories are now in there. So the next thing we need to do, and this is where if you haven't added any local only categories, then you would already be at this step, but we just went through the process of if you have added local only categories, we have just replaced all of our judge judge entry groups, and now we're going to put all of our entries into these groups to be judged. So again, we're going to click that checkbox. We're going to say search mass entry judge group on all categories. Oops, and click the checkbox. We're going to select a mass action of add entries. So for this first page, because notice we have total records of 253 and I've only got listed out 200, we're going to add all the entries into the first 200 categories. Then we're going to go to page 2. And for some of you with lots and lots of entries, you might have a page 3 or page 4. And I'm going to add entries again. And now all my entries are in groups, and we are ready to go with that. So now I'm going to go back to the judging main page. And now we have teams to be associated with that. Now, we've also provided a default team. If this is not there, please let us know. And this is where we are going to add our judges and also add our categories. So let me provide a scenario to you. What we recommend at the National ADDY Committee is to judge all of your digital advertising entries ahead of time. So if you have the wherewithal, if you have a week ahead of your actual judging day to send out all your interactive digital advertising entries ahead of schedule so they can be judged in the comfort of their own office or whatever. The trick there is we're going to need to go in and select each one of those and move them over. So I'm going to look at digital advertising as a whole. And I probably won't need DVDs because those are the only DVDs that we're accepting this year. And there's a list provided of all the digital advertising categories in the rules and categories document. I'm just going to go ahead and select each one of these. We have some elements. Public service. And we have some student addies. Okay, and then I'm going to move these over here. So now I have all my digital advertising ready to go. And then I'm going to add all my judges. There would be, if there were more judges, they'd be listed here on the left. I'm going to add them to the team. So at this point, I'm ready with all my digital advertising categories for the first set of judging. So what I need to do is log in as a test judge to make sure I've got all these correct. So once again, we need to open up a separate browser. Excuse me. So I'm going to go here, and we need the URL for our judging. So where can we find that? In two places. We can find it under Judge Rounds, and our URL is right here. Another place to find that, of course, is under Competitions. The URL button right here, same URL. I'm going to go ahead and place this in another browser. Log in as my test judge. And you'll notice I have some default content sitting there right now. And then I will click on Judging Scoring, and so far so good. I have 4 categories that I had entries in that I'm going to judge. Notice when we put all those digital advertising categories into our judge group, there was a lot more than 4, but it only pulls the ones that actually have entries in it. And in my little test scenario here, I only had these 4 categories actually populated with an entry. And then I will go in and click that, and there's one of the entries in that category. If there were more, there would be a lot bigger list here. And the way it works right now is that they have a scorecard, so they would be able to select the score based on that. They have the entry information, Oh, goodness. Okay. They have the entry information sitting right here, and the URL, unfortunately, is not properly formatted with the HTTP in front of it, but they can go and plug in the website, look at it, say, yes, that's great, close it, move back to the scorecard, select whatever score it is, save and close, and it'll put them back to that. Now, some of you are probably looking at that going, that's a really long way around a short road. It is, and we're working on that, but unfortunately this is the way it's going to be right now. If it was a TV or radio category and you decided to push that ahead of time, the uploads would be sitting under the Uploads tab. Notice a digital asset was not uploaded for this particular entry. So right now I can see, okay, that's great. Now I know that it's all working. So the next thing I want to do is configure all of these pages to make sure that they say what I want them to say. So as with the entrant site, we have the ability to control the text on the judge's site. That is also found under Configure, Judging, and Judge Site Page Instructions. Here it's just like on the entrance side, we have the Judging Contact Us page, the Help page, the Home page, the Login page, and the Rules page. So when a judge first comes to this site, they are greeted by the Login page. So what we see there is right here, is right here. On the Rules page, the same thing. The rules, a sample might be to let them have access to the national rules and categories, or you can put your own local version of the rules and categories in here just by editing the text. So this works exactly how you would update the entrant pages. The Contact Us page, again, I provided a sample. You can put this information in it if you want to. Those are all things that you'll want to set up for the judges. Okay. So now that we've got our judges set up, we've got our group set up, we've got everything in place for that, we have our site pages all set and telling us what we need. We will want to send out an email to our judges. Now, you can do this manually just by sending out your own emails, or you can use the system to do it for you. Either way works. So right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the system to email the judge. So we need to set up a template, and that is found under Configure, Entrant, under Emails. We're going to select Judge Approved. Now, some of you are probably going, why does it say Judge Approved? Well, it just does. So what we're going to look at here, for remembering on our emails, we can put anything in front of this, but we have to say @OmniSG, otherwise it's going to get lost in the spam world and it'll never come back. We can make the title whatever we want. We have some fields we can play with here, but this is where you would put a little note to your judges, especially if you're sending out your digital advertising ahead of time. You would give them the list of the categories you want them to judge, your scoring scale, whatever it is, any information that you think is pertinent to send to the judges. All right. So once we've saved that, we're going to go back to judging. And we've pretty much got everything ready to go. And what we want to do is we will go to Judges. And then we're going to select each of the judges. If there were more listed here, we'd check them all. And we're going to go to an action here. And we're going to say Send Approved Email. Now what that will do, we'll send the email to the judges that you just configured over in the notifications on the email templates. Again, you don't have to use the system to send out that email. You are totally free to send out manual emails straight from your own email address, which I recommend highly just because it's a little more of a personal note from you. The other thing that we want to get set up after we've got all these pieces put together, we know we have our entries. We're going to take them and we're going to organize them by category using our category wall sheets. So if we look under reports, everything is usually under the report group of custom. Besides the wall sheets, we have the score sheets. And right now we have 20 of them. And you'll see they look just like last year's. What I recommend here is immediately export them to a PDF. So you can keep them and save them and print them out at will. You can print them from this screen. It's probably easier to do it from a PDF export. And those are the score sheets. And they will list, of course, by organization of the entry number, as always. And that is the initial setup to get your judging started. What's going to come in the second session is the admin's ability to put in and enter scores. We are putting together a screen just like the old way, which is it'll list it all right there and they can key in the entries, key in the scores for each entry. Setting up all your awarding, setting up your percent wins, all those things will be coming in the second webinar. This is basically to get you started on getting your judging set up so you can actually go in and start putting that all together for your competitions. Hopefully the next one will be next week. We're still working on scheduling that, and George will have more information on that. Otherwise, I thank you again for your patience. I can't thank you enough for not berating me every time something goes wrong. We are working as fast as we can to correct and fix and amend and try to work with us, not against us. And I really appreciate your time today. And if you have any questions, I believe we can now open up the floor.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Great information, and you know, obviously the beginning of the process for judging, and we are going to try to schedule part 2 for early next week, if at all possible. We'd like to get part 2 done before the holiday, so we will let everybody know as soon as we have the second webinar scheduled. We do have a couple of questions that have been submitted so far, so I'll read them off. And Jeffrey, this first question, I've had the opportunity to read it and think about it a little bit while you've been talking, so I'd like to suggest a possible answer, and then you can chime in as well. The question is, can the judging page be configured by steps? So the first thing to do is listed first, then the second, et cetera. And it has to do with the fact that the you know, the process, the procedure that you laid out is not necessarily logical in order on the software itself. I think it's a good, valid point, and I was going to suggest that maybe as a partial solution to this, while we can't necessarily change the software immediately, the first step might be for us to document the steps that you laid out today in a logical order, and publish that for everybody to use as a written form. You know, we have had in the past an ADDY how-to guide, and we are going to do that, update it as soon as the software is finished and has been trained. And you know, this would be a good component to it, to have, you know, the judging software component published. And so my suggestion would be that maybe we document the judging steps that you laid out in a logical order, and then people can use that as a written guide, and then they would be able to find their way around the software accordingly. So I'd offer that suggestion as an answer, and Jeffrey, open it up to you to answer the question as you see.
No, I totally agree. I think we can work with the software developer to flush out the notes that I already have sitting here, just to make sure we didn't miss any particular pieces. But I have most of that already done, and that's no problem.
Okay. I think that's possibly a real good solution. So we'll get started working on that right away so that people can use that written documentation maybe in concert with this webinar, and that will help them as a guide to walk through this process. Okay, another question, can score sheets be sorted by language? For example, our club judges English separately from non-English as separate categories.
That's a good question. I don't believe they can be sorted at this point. We can look into that, but I don't believe that's going to be a possibility.
Okay, so it looks like that's probably a no at this point. And this question came from Nicole, and if you'd like to address this further, Nicole, please send an email to addyinfo@aaf.org, and we'll start a dialogue on that. Under reports, and I'm not sure if this is a judging question. I'm going to skip this one for the moment. The next question is, what if you're using the consensus style of judging? Can that work on the software?
Yes, very good question. So, like I said, some clubs do consensus style judging, but at the end of the day, we need to score these in some fashion. So most clubs who have done that usually pick, all right, if I've got a consensus that this is a gold, then I'm going to assign 100 points to that particular entry in the software. If I said it was a silver, I'm going to assign 80 points for that into the software. And so just be consistent. So all my golds are at 100 and all my silvers are at 80.
Okay. If I use here's a question now, if I use the admin feature to revise an entrant's incorrect entry during judging time, how do I print a new entrant form to include with their entry in the event it needs to get forwarded?
That's kind of a post thing, and we will come up with a solution for that.
Okay. Let me look here down the row here. Can you go over the digital categories for prejudging again? We skipped through those pretty quickly. Now there is you mentioned that there's a document that lists the digital categories.
Yes.
You want to go through that, or? Yeah.
I'm going to pull it up right now. Oh, why don't we just pull it up this way? Look at all those documents. Isn't that crazy? All right. Oh, and it's not there. Okay. There will be. We will put that out there. A list of all the digital advertising categories. I thought we had it in that already. We don't.
I mean, to a certain extent, it's up to clubs. You can kind of create your own list based on the digital categories that are submitted within your competition. And once the competition is closed, you can go through and look at the digital / interactive categories that have been submitted in your competition and what you want your judges to judge before they come to the market to judge the rest of the competition. And you would just simply identify those, and then, as Jeffrey illustrated before, set those up as a group and send that information off to the judges ahead of time. I have in the past, with my competition, excluded a few that were, for example, online video categories, because I felt that there were some that I didn't want my judges to judge before they got to my town, and so I took them off the list. And it's kind of a local call. But yeah, we can create. Jeffrey will work on creating that list and publishing that again. So we have that there.
Right, and the easiest way to look at that is, of course, the digital advertising division is there. I would skip the multimedia DVD, and then each of, like, public service has a digital advertising category. So does industry self-promotion, so does our advertising for the arts and sciences, and then we have some elements that are in there. Those are pretty much all the digital advertising, plus the students. Don't forget about the students if you're sending out those and judging those together. That's really it. So when you're looking at the list of all the digital advertising entries that you need to send out, that's pretty much the bulk of it. The actual digital advertising division, sans DVD, and like George said, possibility of sans some of the video. And then each of the little one-offs in advertising for the arts, public service, and industry self-promotion, as well as elements, as well as students. Okay?
We'll get a list. Let's see. Here. Jeffrey, is there a reason why we shouldn't judge all our entries online?
Yes. So with all the collateral and all the print pieces especially, as a judge and someone who wants stuff judged, I want them to actually pick up that physical piece, feel it, look at it, love it, flip through it, do all that good stuff. There is no way that you can put a PDF and make it look like that beautiful brochure that was, you know, painstakingly designed and printed immaculately online. It's never going to happen. And yes, the look is there. You can see it in a PDF, and it's beautiful. But the craftsmanship and how it was put together is also something that needs to be judged. As far as the video goes and audio, there are a lot of people that probably want to do this online, and that's fine, but as a judge, I would rather be sitting in the room with my judges on a big screen or a very nice TV monitor and viewing these entries and listening to the radio and whatnot. So I implore you all to make sure that you do all of it at your judging. And I know some of it takes time, but we've been doing this for years, so you've already allocated that kind of time for it. So let's make sure that we only send out the digital advertising ahead of time. There are going to be exceptions, like when you're reviewing integrated campaigns. You don't want to have to run back to the TV room to look at that TV spot and then run back out to the print collateral and look at that. Those, by all means, you know, have a laptop sitting right next to all your integrated campaigns so you can pull up the TV spots and look at that with all the other collateral. Makes total sense. But you know, we really like to see the quality stay on the table and the pieces picked up and looked at and given their just rewards.
I agree, Jeffrey. Thank you for that. The NAC, the National ADDY Committee, and the AF does not support complete online judging for the ADDY Awards. And when we conduct the national judging, the only things that are judged online are the actual online categories. All of the television, video, broadcast, radio, print, everything else is judged in person for that very reason. It's a quality of judging issue, and so we strongly encourage the clubs to do the same thing. The fact that we enabled uploading of the video and audio files this year, and by extension also created a way for clubs to upload digital assets, was really just to make the process easier for the entrants and was not to enable online judging. So we encourage you to continue to judge your work in person. It's a quality thing. Here's another question, Jeffrey. Will part 2 of the judging training tell us about the configuration topics that were not touched on today, like awards, et cetera?
Yes. It'll go through on setting up award types, which should already be preloaded, but if you want to add some, just like before, if you want to add a special judge's citation because the color is blue. It'll also go over entering scores as an admin. It'll go over how we award entries that have achieved the proper scores, and then all the reports that go along with that, the winner's book, etc. So you could call it all the post-judging stuff, or kind of during judging / post-judging stuff.
Okay, another question. When you print a hard copy score sheet, will the hard copy score sheet include a URL if it is for a digital category?
No, not at the moment.
We might want to look at that because that's not a bad question.
Not at all.
Thank you, Jason. We'll look into it. Let's see. I think I'm out of judging-related questions. I have a couple of minutes left before we have to sign off. This is not a judging question per se, but the question is, when you mentioned the software having speed issues, I have an entrant saying it's faster on Chrome, but he's having issues with Safari and Firefox. Are others having that same issue? I would answer, not to my knowledge. Jeffrey?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. It's pretty agnostic when it comes to browsers, but I mean, there's so many variables besides your local internet connection, the speed of your computer, et cetera, et cetera. There were issues with the actual software, and those are being corrected. There were a lot of it this weekend, hopefully, and they shouldn't see that. But just as a matter of technology, Chrome is a faster browser in some cases. It might be handling the form fields better than others. Firefox just released an update. Safari just released an update not too long ago. So there might be some issues there. But other than that, I have not heard of anything specific to a browser yet.
Let's see. I think that's all the questions that we have time for right now. It's almost 1:45, and we're about out of time. Jeffrey, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you all for your time today. We really appreciate it. We will let you know as soon as we have our next webinar scheduled. Like I said, we hope it will be within a week. Hopefully it will be before the Christmas holiday. And as we said earlier, we are working on many of the issues that have been brought up. And I'd like to say a special thank you to some of the folks whose clubs got off to an early start. You know, many of you have encountered issues and questions and problems that you know, we are addressing. And I'll be honest with you, it's saving a lot of the later clubs some of the problems that have already been fixed. So software is improving, and hopefully that will benefit everybody down the road. So thank you again for your time and your efforts to help us improve things, and for your patience. Looking forward to working with you again soon, and we'll let you know when the next webinar is scheduled. Thanks, everybody.